Hello, I'm your host, Tony Felice, and what you're about to hear is the continuation of a story that began in memory and grief and now opens into something entirely new. In Season 1, we follow Tom Sanders, a writer suspended in sorrow, struggling to finish a book after the death of his mother. Through the hush of loss and unexpected guidance of a wise, mysterious cricket, something began to unfold. A story within a story. A Christmas tale, unlike any other. Now, in Season 2, we cross the threshold with Tom. We enter Santa Land itself. This is a fairy tale for grown-ups. A journey through snow and stillness, through magic and meaning, through the sacred language of the words we speak and the love we feel. So follow the cricket. Let your heart be still and listen, because Santa Land isn't just a story, it's a frequency. And love is the thread. And I am so glad that you're here. Welcome to Santa Land. Hello, and welcome back to the Santa Land podcast. We're a few nights in now, and if you're still listening, my goodness, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed my reading of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and also my ghost stories. And so thank you again for being here. To recap from last night, if you remember correctly, Scrooge was with the Ghost of Christmas Present. And the Ghost of Christmas Present, at the end of their journey, aged, because obviously the day is ending. And he represents all the Christmas days that ever were or ever was. And he's growing older, and Ebenezer's asking him some questions. What seems to be out of genuine concern. And then he's introduced to these two ragged, wolf-like, thin creatures, one named Ignorance and the other named Want. And they are withered and wretched creatures. And he basically says that, these two creatures together, not only do they deplete the rest of the world, but in between victims, they deplete one another. That's the reason why they're so hollowed out, is because they steal all of the energy and the innocence that they can. And then when there's nothing left, they try to steal it from each other. And so that is why being a bad guy is really a poor choice. Love always wins. It is mathematically provable. And bad always ends up turning on itself until it becomes a withered husk. So anyway, that's probably like one of the heaviest lessons that our Ebenezer has faced so far. He is about to meet the Specter, right? And if you've watched the movie or read the book before, you know that another choice is coming, and it's going to be a scary one. The other question that might be on your mind is whether I saw a specter myself. I'm taking a drink because this is live, recorded live, and I read live, and I rarely stop and correct anything unless it's a huge mistake. So I try to read all the way through. So that just shows what I can do, as an artist, what my capabilities are. And I've never seen this text before. I'm reading it as I'm seeing it. And so, that's the challenge that I'm put on myself, that I want you guys to witness, whether I fail miserably or not. The idea is to put it out there. So I'm going to put it out there. Last night, a specter did visit me. I had the best night's sleep I've had, probably in over a month. And halfway through the night, well, before I tell you that, I'll say that I have this condition, and it has to be managed, and it's in my heart, and strangely enough, and there are warning signs, and last night I had them, and they're not the kind. It's not the kind of warning sign you want to experience. It is frightening, and I remember very clearly that all I said was, "I want more time. I want more time. I want more time." That's the only thing that was going through my head, was that I want more time. It took 40 years for me to find my husband, and we've had 21 years together, and I want 20 more, if possible. There are things I want to do. There's things there are rights that I want to share, and wrongs I want to heal. And I have stories that I want to put out there as the plane flies over to try to take my moment. So I was granted that choice. I was granted my choice. My wish was granted at 3:00 in the morning. I hazard a guess it was probably 3:33 a.m., which would probably be quite significant, but I don't know that for sure. But anyway, my prayer was answered, and I asked with such sincerity. I really did, because like Ebenezer, we're all faced with choices. To be good or bad, to do something thinking no one's going to notice, or it'll be fine at just this time, or whatever. And you convince yourself of a million things in your life that it is fine, that you have permission. But you're fooling yourself. I personally believe that I am part of God, and God is part of me, and therefore God is all of me. And I just came to that realization just like a few weeks ago. I'm 60 years old. But I have dominion over myself, which means that I got to take care of myself the way I need to take care of my family and my friends and my neighbors and the earth. And if that sounds radical, then you're probably listening to the wrong show. And I have a really good analogy that I'm going to put in the sequel about playing in the wrong symphony. So we'll talk about that sometime. But my point is that sometimes it takes a specter before people make real change in their life. And for me, the lesson of this Christmas has been about letting go of the past completely. All emotion. Forgive everything. Just let it all go. And then draw your boundaries from love and really just stick there, But let that stuff go, because it drags you down. And you can't make the right choices for yourself when you're bogged down with all of those thoughts and feelings and emotions and all of that stuff. Stop it. Like I said before, happy never sucks. Say it after me. Happy never sucks. It's hard to get there. I'm not Pollyanna here. I know it's hard to get there. And it's going to be really hard for Ebenezer to get there, as we're about to find out. So stand by as I pause for just a second to get to the appropriate place on my phone. Stand by. The last of the spirits. The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approached. When it came near him, Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for in the very air through which this spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. It was shrouded in a deep black garment, which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing of it visible, save one outstretched hand. But for this, it would have been difficult to detach its figure from the night and separate it from the darkness by which it was surrounded. He felt that it was tall and stately when it came beside him, and that its mysterious presence filled him with a solemn dread. He knew no more, for the spirit neither spoke nor moved. I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come," said Scrooge. The spirit answered not, but pointed onward with its hand. You are about to show me the shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen in the time before us, Scrooge pursued. Is that so, spirit? The upper portion of the garment was contracted for an instant in its folds, as if the spirit had inclined its head. That was the only answer he received. Although well used to ghostly company by this time, Scrooge feared the silent shape so much that his legs trembled beneath him, and he found that he could hardly stand when he prepared to follow it. The spirit paused a moment, as observing his condition and giving him time to recover. But Scrooge was all the worse for this. It thrilled him with a vague, uncertain horror to know that behind the dusky shroud there were ghostly eyes intently fixed upon him, while he, though he stretched his own to the utmost, could see nothing but a spectral hand and one great heap of black. "Ghost of the future!" he exclaimed. "I feared you more than any spectre I've seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear your company, and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?" It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them. "Lead on," said Scrooge. "Lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time, I know. Lead on, spirit." The phantom moved away as it had come towards him. Scrooge followed him in the shadow of its dress, which bore him up, he thought, and carried him along. They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them and encompass them for its own act. But there they were in the heart of it, on 'change amongst the merchants, who hurried up and down and clinked the money in their pockets, and conversed in groups, and looked at their watches, and trifled thoughtfully with their great gold seals and so forth, as Scrooge had seen them often. The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointing to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk. "No," said a great fat man with a monstrous chin. "I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead." "When did he die?" inquired another. "Last night, I believe." "Why, what was the matter with him?" asked a third, taking a vast quantity of snuff out of a very large snuff-box. "I thought he'd never die." "God knows," said the first, with a yawn. "What has he done with his money?" asked a red-faced gentleman with a pedulous excrescence on the end of its nose. Oh, that's a lot to say. Try that again. "I haven't heard," said the man with the large chin, yawning again. "Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know." This pleasantry was received with a general laugh. "It is likely to be a very cheap funeral," said the same speaker, "for upon my life, I don't know of anyone to go on." "It is likely to be a very cheap funeral," said the same speaker, "for upon my life, I don't know of anybody to go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer." "I don't mind going if lunch is provided," observed the gentleman with the excrement on his nose. "But I must be fed if I make one." Another laugh. "Well, I am the most disinterested among you after all," said the first speaker, "for I never wear black gloves, and I never eat lunch, but I often go if anyone else will. When I come to think of it, I'm not at all sure that I wasn't his most particular friend, for we used to stop and speak whenever we met. Bye-bye." Speakers and listeners strolled away and mixed with other groups. Scrooge knew the men and looked towards the spirit for an explanation. The phantom glided onto the street. Its finger pointed to two persons meeting Scrooge, listening again, thinking that the explanation might lie here. He knew these men also perfectly. They were men of business, very wealthy, and of great importance. He had made a point of always standing well in their esteem in a business point of view, that is, strictly in a business point of view. "How are you?" said one. "How are you?" returned the other. "Well," said the first, "old Scratch has got his own at last, hey?" "So I'm told," returned the second. "Cold, isn't it?" "Seasonable for Christmas time. You're not a skater, I suppose?" No. Something else to think of. Good morning." Not another word. That was their meeting, their conversation, and their parting. Scrooge was at first inclined to be surprised that the spirit should attach importance to conversations apparently so trivial, but feeling assured that they must have some hidden purpose, he set himself to consider what it was likely to be. They could scarcely be supposed to have any bearing on the death of Jacob, his old partner, for that was past, and this ghost's province was the future. Nor could he think of anyone immediately connected with himself to whom he could apply them, but nothing, doubting that, to whomsoever they applied, they had some latent moral for his own improvement, he resolved to treasure up every word he heard, and everything he saw, and especially to observe the shadow of himself when it appeared. For he had an expectation that the conduct of his future self would give him the clue he missed, and would render the solution of these riddles easy. He looked about in that very place for his own image, but another man stood in his accustomed corner, and though the clock pointed to his usual time of day for being there, he saw no likeness of himself among the multitudes that poured in through the porch. It gave him little surprise, however, for he had been revolving in his mind a change of life, and thought and hoped he saw his newborn resolutions carried out in this. Quiet and dark beside him stood the phantom, with its outstretched hand. When he roused himself from his thoughtful quest, he fancied, from the turn of the hand and its situation in reference to himself, that the unseen eyes were looking at him keenly. It made him shudder. It made him feel very cold. They left the busy scene and went into an obscure part of town, where Scrooge had never penetrated before, although he recognized its situation and its bad repute. The ways were foul and narrow, the shops and houses wretched, the people half-naked, drunken, slipshod, ugly. Alleys and archways, like so many cesspools, disgorged their offences of smell and dirt and life upon the straggling streets, and the whole quarter reeked with crime, with filth and misery. Far in this den of infamous resort, there was a low-browed beating shop. Below a penthouse roof there were iron, old rags, battles. Far in this den of infamous resort, there was a low-browed beetling shop below a penthouse roof, where iron, old rags, bottles, bones, and greasy offal were bought. Upon the floor within were piled up heaps of rusty keys, nails, chains, hinges, files, scales, weights, and refuse iron of all kinds. Secrets that few would like to scrutinize were bred and hidden in mountains of unseemly rags, masses of corrupted fat, and sepulchres of bones. Sitting in among the wares he dealt in by a charcoal stove made of old bricks was a grey-haired rascal, nearly 70 years of age, who had screened himself from the cold air without by a frowsy curtaining of miscellaneous tatters hung upon a line, and smoked his pipe in all the luxury of a calm retirement. Scrooge and the phantom came into the presence of this man, just as a woman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop. But she had scarcely entered when another woman, similarly laden, came in too, and she was closely followed by a man in faded black, who was no less startled by the sight of them than they had been upon the recognition of each other. After a short period of blank astonishment, in which the old man with the pipe had joined them, they all three burst into a laugh. "Let the charwoman alone to be the first," cried she, who had entered first. "Let the laundress alone to be the second, and let the undertaker's man alone to be the third. Look here, old Joe, here's a chance. If we haven't all three met here without meaning it." "You couldn't have met in a better place," said old Joe, removing his pipe from his mouth. "Come into the parlour. You were made free of it long ago, you know, and the other two ain't strangers.
Stop till I shut up the door of the shop. Aye, how it shrieks. There ain't such a rusty bit of metal in the place as its own hinges, I believe. And I'm sure there's no such old bones here as mine. Ha, ha, ha. We're all suitable to our calling. We're all well matched. Come into the parlour. Come into the parlour.
The parlour was a space behind the screen of rags. The old man raked the fire together with an old stair rod, and having trimmed his smoky lamp, for it was night, with the stem of his pipe, put it into his mouth again. While he did this, the woman who had already spoken threw her bundle on the floor and sat down in a flaunting manner on a stool, crossing her elbows on her knees and looking with a bold defiance at the other two.
"What odds, then? What odds, Mrs. Dilber?" said the woman. "Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did." "It's true, indeed," said the laundress. "No man more so." Why then don't stand starting as if you were afraid, woman. Who's the wiser? We're not going to pick holes in each other's coats, I suppose." "No, indeed," said Mrs. Dilber and the man together. "We should hope not." "Very well, then," cried the woman. "That's enough. Who's for the worse for the loss of a few things like these? Not a dead man, I suppose?" "No, indeed," said Mrs. Dilber, laughing. "If he wanted to keep 'em after he was dead, a wicked old screw," pushed the woman. Why isn't he natural in his lifetime? If he had been, he'd have somebody to look after him when he was struck with death instead of lying... Oh, my God, it's not Cockney. What is this? "If he wanted to keep him after he was dead," the wicked old screw pursued. "If he wanted to keep him after he was dead, a wicked old screw," pursued the woman, "why wasn't he natural in his lifetime? If he had been, he'd have had somebody look after him when he was struck with death, instead of lying, gasping out there, alone by himself." "It's the truest word that was ever spoke," said Mrs. Dilber. "It's a judgment on him." I wish it was a little heavier judgment," replied the woman, "and it should have been, you may depend upon it, if I could have laid my hands on anything else. Open that bundle, old Joe, and let me know the value of it. Speak out plain. I'm not afraid to be the first, nor afraid for them to see it. We knew pretty well that we were helping ourselves before we met here, I believe. It's no sin. Open the bundle, Joe." But the gallantry of her friends would not allow of this, and the man in faded black mounted the breach first, producing his plunder. It was not extensive. A seal or two, a pencil case, a pair of sleeve buttons, and a brooch of no great value were all. They were severally examined and appraised by old Joe, who chalked the sums he was disposed to give for each upon the wall, and then added them up to a total when he found that there was nothing more to come. "That is your account," said Joe, "and I wouldn't give another sixpence if I was to be boiled for not doing it. Who's next?" Mrs. Dilber was next. Sheets and towels, a little wearing apparel, 2 old-fashioned silver teaspoons, a pair of sugar tongs, and a few boots. Her account was stated on the wall in the same manner. "I always give too much to ladies. It's a weakness of mine, and that's the way I ruin myself," said old Joe. "That's your account. If you asked me for another penny and made it an open question, I'd repent of being so liberal and knock off half a crown." "And now undo my bundle, Joe," said the first woman. Joe went down on his knees for the greater convenience of opening it, and having unfastened a great many knots, dragged out a large heavy roll of some dark stuff. "What do you call this?" said Joe. "Bed curtains?" "Aye," returned the woman, laughing, leaning forward on her arms. "Bed curtains!" "You don't mean to say you took 'em down, rings and all, with him lying there?" said Joe. "Yes, I do," said the woman. "Why not?" "You were born to make your fortune," said Joe, "and you'll certainly do it." "I certainly shan't hold my hand when I can't get anything by reaching it out for the sake of such a man as he was. I promise you, Joe," returned the woman coolly. "Don't drop that oil upon the blankets now." "His blankets?" asked Joe. "Who else does you think?" replied the woman. "He ain't likely to take cold without him, I dare say." "I hope he didn't die of anything catching, eh?" said old Joe, sopping in his work and looking up. "Don't you be afraid of that," returned the woman. "I ain't so fond of this company that I'd loiter about him for such things if I did. You may look through his shirt. Till your eyes ache, but you won't find no hole in it, nor a threadbare place. It's the best he had, and fine one, too. They'd have wasted in it, if it hadn't been for me." "What do you call wasting of it?" asked Joe. Putting it on him to be buried in, to be sure," said the woman with a laugh. "Somebody's fool enough to do it, but I took it off again. If calico ain't good enough for such a purpose, it ain't good enough for anybody. It's quite as becoming to the body. He can't look uglier than he did in that one." Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror. As they sat grouped about their spoil in the scanty light afforded by the old man's lamp, he viewed them with a detestation and disgust which could have hardly been greater, though they had been obscene demons marketing. Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror, as they sat grouped about their spoil in the scanty light afforded by the old man's lamp. He viewed them with a detestation and disgust which could hardly have been greater, though they had been obscene demons marketing the corpse itself. "Ha ha!" laughed the same woman when old Joe, producing a flannel bag with money in it, told out their several gains upon the ground. "Ha ha!" laughed the same woman when old Joe, producing a flannel bag with money in it, told out their several gains upon the ground. "This is the end of it, you see. He frightened every one away from him when he was alive, to profit us when he was dead. Ha ha ha!" "Spirit," said Scrooge, shuddering from head to foot, I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now, merciful heavens, what is this?" He recoiled in terror, for the scene had changed, and now he almost touched a bed, a bare, uncurtained bed, on which, beneath a ragged sheet, there lay something covered up, which, though it was dumb, announced itself in an awful language. The room was very dark, too dark to be observed with any accuracy, though Scrooge glanced round it in obedience to a secret impulse, anxious to know what kind of room it was. A pale light rising in the outer air fell straight upon the bed, and on it, plundered and barefooted, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of this man. Scrooge glanced towards the phantom. Its steady hand was pointed to the head. The cover was so carelessly adjusted that the slightest raising of it, the motion of a finger upon Scrooge's part, would have disclosed the face. He thought of it, felt how easy it would be to do, and longed to do it, but he had no more power to withdraw the veil than to dismiss the spectre at his side. "O cold, cold, rigid, dreadful death, set up thine altar here, and dress it with such terrors as thou hast thy command, for this is thy dominion? But of the loved, the revered, and honoured head thou canst not turn one hair to thy dread purpose, or make one feature odious. It is not that the hand is heavy, and will fall down when released. It is not that the heart and pulse are still, but that the hand was open, generous and true, the heart brave, warm and tender, and the pulse a man's. Strike, shadow, strike, and see his good deeds springing from the wound to sow the world with life immortal." No voice pronounced these words in Scrooge's ears, and yet he heard them when he looked upon the bed. He thought, if this man could be raised up now, what would be his foremost thoughts? Avarice? Hard dealing? Griping cares? They had brought him to a rich end, truly. He lay in the dark, empty house, with not a man, a woman, or a child to say he was kind to me in this or that, and for the memory of one kind word I will be kind to him. A cat was tearing at the door, and there was a sound of gnawing rats beneath the hearthstone. What they wanted in the room of death, and why they were so restless and disturbed, Scrooge did not dare to think. "Spirit," he said, "this is a fearful place. I'm leaving it. I shall not leave its lessons. Trust me. Let's go." Still, the ghost pointed with an unmoved finger to the bed. "I understand you," Scrooge returned, "and I would do it if I could. But I have not the power, Spirit. I have not the power." Again, it seemed to look upon him. "If there is any person in the town who feels emotion caused by this man's death," said Scrooge, quite astonished, "show that person to me, spirit, I beseech you." The phantom spread its dark robe before him for a moment, like a wing, and withdrawing it, revealed a room by daylight where a mother and her children were. She was expecting someone, and with anxious eagerness, for she walked up and down the room, starting at every sound, looking out from window to window, glancing at the clock, and tried, but in vain, to work with her needle, and she could barely bear the voices of her children in their play. At length, the long-expected knock was heard. She hurried to the door and met her husband, a man whose face was careworn and depressed, though he was young. There was a remarkable expression in it now, a kind of serious delight of which he felt ashamed, and which he struggled to repress. He sat down to the dinner that had been hoarded for him by the fire, and when she asked him faintly what news, which was not until after a long silence, he appeared embarrassed how to answer. "Is it good?" she asked, "or bad?" To help him. "Bad," he answered. "We are quite ruined." "No, there's hope yet, Caroline." "If he relents," she said, amazed, "there is nothing but past hope, if such a miracle has happened." "He is past relenting," said her husband. "He is dead." She was a mild and patient creature, if her face spoke truth, but she was thankful in her soul to hear it, and she said so with clasped hands. She prayed forgiveness in the next moment, and was sorry, but the first was the emotion of the heart. "What the half-drunken woman whom I told you of last night said to me when I tried to see him and obtain a week's delay, and what I thought was a mere excuse to avoid me, turns out to have been quite true. He was not only very ill, but dying then." To whom will our debt be transferred?" "I don't know. But before that time we shall be ready with the money, and even though we were not, it will be a bad fortune indeed to find so merciless a creditor in his successor. We may sleep tonight with light hearts, Caroline." Yes, soften as they would, their hearts were lighter. The children's faces hushed and clustered round to hear what they so little understood. They were brighter, and it was a happier house for this man's death. The only emotion that the ghost could show him, caused by the event, was one of pleasure. "Let me see some tenderness connected with a death," said Scrooge, "or that dark chamber spirit which we left just now will be forever present to me." The ghost conducted him through several streets familiar to his feet, and as they went along, Scrooge looked here and there to find himself, but nowhere was he to be seen. They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and the children seated round the fire. Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and her daughters were engaged in sewing, but surely they were very quiet. "And he took a child and set him in the midst of them." Where had Scrooge heard those words? He had not dreamed them. The boy must have read them out as he and the spirit crossed the threshold. Why did he not go on? The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face. "The color hurts my eyes," she said. "The color? Oh, poor Tiny Tim." "They're better now again," said Cratchit's wife. "It makes them weak by candlelight, and I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be near his time." "Past it, rather," Peter answered, shutting up his book. "But I think he has walked a little slower than he used these few last evenings, Mother." They were very quiet again. At last she said, and in a steady, cheerful voice that only faltered once, "I have known him walk I have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulders very fast indeed. And so have I, cried Peter. Often. And so have I, exclaimed another. So had all. But he was very light to carry, she resumed, intent upon her work. And his father loved him so that it was no trouble. And there is your father at the door. She hurried out to meet him, and little Bob and his comforter, he had need of it, poor fellow, came in. His tea was ready for him on the hob, and they all tried who should help get it to him the most. When the two young Cratchits got upon his knees and laid each child a little cheek against his face, they said, "Don't mind it, father, don't be grieved." Bob was very cheerful with them, and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table, and praised the industry and speed of Mrs. Cratchit and the girls. They would be long done by Sunday, he said. "Sunday? You went today, then, Robert?" said his wife. "Yes, my dear," returned Bob. "I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised that I would walk there on Sunday." "My little child," cried Bob. "My little child." He broke down all at once. He couldn't help it. If he could have helped it, he and his child would have been farther apart, perhaps, than they were. He left the room and went upstairs to the room above, which was lighted cheerfully and hung with Christmas. There was a chair set close beside the child, and there were signs of someone having been there lately. Poor Bob sat down in it, and when he thought a little and composed himself, he kissed the little face. He was reconciled to what had happened, and went down again quite happy. They drew about the fire and talked, the girls and the mother working still. Bob told them of the extraordinary kindness of Mr. Scrooge's nephew, whom he had scarcely seen but once, and who, meeting him in the street that day, and seeing that he looked just a little down, you know, said Bob, inquired what had happened to distress him. "On which," said Bob, "for he is the pleasantest spoken gentleman you've ever heard, I told him. 'I am heartily sorry for it, Mr. Cratchit,' he said, 'and heartily sorry for your good wife. By the by, how he ever knew that, I don't know.'" Knew what, my dear?" "Why, that you were a good wife," replied Bob. "Everybody knows that," said Peter. "Very well observed, my boy," cried Bob. "I hope they do. Heartily sorry," he said, "for your good wife. If I can be of service to you in any way," he said, giving me his card. "That's where I live. Pray come to me." Now, it wasn't cried, Bob, for the sake of anything he might be able to do for us, so much as for his kind way, that he was quite delightful. It really seemed as if he had known our Tiny Tim, and felt with us. "I'm sure he's a good soul," said Mrs. Cratchit. "You would be sure of it, my dear," returned Bob, "if you saw and spoke to him. I shouldn't be at all surprised, mark what I say, if he got Peter a better situation." "Oh, hear that, Peter," said Mrs. Cratchit. And then cried one of the girls, "Peter will be keeping company with someone, and setting up for himself." "Get along with you," retorted Peter, grinning. "It's just as likely as not," said Bob. "One of these days, though there's plenty of time for that, my dear. But, however and whenever we part from one another, I'm sure we shall none of us forget poor Tiny Tim, shall we? Or this first parting that there was among us." "Never, father, never," cried they all. "And I know," said Bob, "I know, my dears, that when we recollect the patient and how mild he was, although he was a little child, we shall not quarrel easily among ourselves, and forget poor Tiny Tim in doing it." "No, never, father, never," they cried. "I'm very happy," said little Bob. "I'm very happy." Mrs. Cratchit kissed him. His daughters kissed him. The two young Cratchits kissed him. And Peter kissed him, shook hands. Oh, Lord. I may have, I think I've gone over where I was supposed to go, and I'm exhausted.
Oh my gosh, I hope, a part of me wants to listen to this and maybe redo it again, but that would be like not good. But you guys deserve it to be really great. So I'm going to listen to it. And then I'm going to listen to it. All right, I just listened to it and it's okay. It's not bad. The accents are off because I wasn't prepared to do Cockney accents, but I sure would love to learn how to do it. I'm going to have to watch a few shows. But anyway, what did you guys think about what's going on here? I'll probably pick up the Bob Cratchit scene again, maybe, and in the next episode. Because it's so important to get it right. And what's happening here is that, of course, Tiny Tim is gone, and they are trying to all cheer each other up. And the father's like, he's trying to hang on for the kids, but he's very emotional. And back then, it was very British to just hold that in and not express it, especially among children or strangers. So, and then we hear that Bob ran into Scrooge's nephew, and there was such a pleasant exchange, which for someone of his class to condescend to speak to somebody of Bob's class means something. And Bob is very touched by that. And he thinks if I have this good fortune, then, perhaps he could be helpful to my son and help him get a situation that will improve his life. So here we have a father that's in the midst of grief and still trying to hang on to his family by thinking of his other son simultaneously. I know from experience it's possible to be productive and to grieve at the same time. I'm sure many of you understand that. So, to wrap it up for this evening, I'm still waiting to hear from you to tell me if one of you has your own Christmas ghost story. But I do find that my experiences, while perfectly explainable, are really great to think about, because it's sort of my job as a writer to live between the prosaic and the uncanny, somewhere in there. And in the middle is often where the good stuff is, The middle is where all the jelly is in a jelly donut. And I could go on and on about one of my favorite things in the world, pastry. But that's it. So Scrooge is going to be he already knows the choice he's going to make. It's clear. He knows he has to go through this experience anyway, and there's nothing he can do about it. And then when he sees the person on the bed, he wants to lift the sheet, even though he doesn't, to confirm whether or not that person is him. And you notice that we've not identified him specifically yet. And he's like, can I get some good news? And he takes him to a place where, a young family struggling owed Scrooge money. And he was on his way to ask for an extension, and had the good fortune to hear that Scrooge had passed. And, his first question his wife asks is, what about his successor? And they're terrified because they think they might be in ruin. So who knows what will become of them, but the point was that they were grateful that he was gone. And he proceeds to show a full spectrum of people who are grateful that he's gone and are profiting from it in their own way and not profiting from it in their own ways. And the scoundrels come in and rip everything that they can find, but he didn't have much. He kept it all in the bank and hoarded it. And so there wasn't really much to steal from this guy because he was just so, miserly. But these odds and ends, and and it's the worst possible place in London to have your crap pawned, that was stolen. Even though it's junk, it's like this place is the most awful you can think of with these criminals, this criminal mindset. But think about it. Remember before, ignorance and want together. Well, what do you think that back alley is? Ignorance and want. Okay? So those two things have to be balanced. You can't be too smart and own everything. There's no good in that at all. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday season. It is December 28th. I'm not sure what we're planning for New Year's. It's been windy and cold here at the beach. And Obi has been learning how to climb onto the back of of each chair that's by a window, so he can sit up there like a sphinx and bark at everything that goes by. So I am grateful that he's been quiet this evening and allowed me to share some time with you. Thank you for joining me again on the Santaland podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. God bless. Take care. Love you guys.